the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars.
This is Business Rockstars. I'm Brittany Lehman, and my guest today is Grant Langston, CEO of eHarmony. Grant, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thrilled to be here.
So eHarmony is a very big company and very well known, but for those who are not familiar with eHarmony, could you give me the quick elevator pitch?
I will. We are the world's leader in creating enduring, successful relationships. So we are in the category of online dating, but we would prefer to think of ourselves as a relationship site.
Wonderful. And you've been with eHarmony since its inception in August of 2000. You were the third employee.
Yeah.
What has it been like watching the company grow into what it is today?
It has been like 5 lifetimes, really.
Sure.
You know, I actually started 6 months before the site launched.
Wow.
In February of that year. And it was a situation like a lot of startups where you have your fingers crossed that you're going to get a check, and then you get your fingers crossed that it doesn't bounce.
Right.
And the first 2 years were very sort of scary times, right? And we started in a psychologist's office.
Oh, interesting.
So our founder was still seeing patients.
Okay.
And we were huddled in little desks. I was actually in a broom closet, and there were 4 other psychologists in the suite. And as their terms came up, we would move them out and take their office.
Oh, wow.
And then we took the whole suite, and then we took the whole floor, and then we took multiple floors. So it was scary, and then it was really thrilling. And just like a lot of businesses over the years, it's kind of had a lot of this, ups and downs, but it's been quite an education. I've been thrilled to be involved.
So tell me about the journey from VP of Marketing to CEO. What was that kind of like?
Well, I had touched a lot of parts of the business by the time I got to the vice president level. I mean, I started as a copywriter and a low-level marketer. I ran customer care. I ran lifecycle marketing. I really worked my way around the business.
Yeah.
Most every role except the technology-based tech jobs, I feel like I've done. And so as the VP of Marketing, I was primarily making TV commercials and guarding the brand and doing that kind of thing and talking to the press about the company. And so when Dr. Warren resigned and retired, the board felt like I was the guy that had lived and breathed the business more than anybody. And I think that's true.
Yeah.
It's not a company that outsiders do well running. We've had a few adventures where we've brought in CEOs over the years who are in other industries. And there are just a lot of things about online dating that are atypical, and it makes it hard to just plug someone in. So getting an insider, I think, was very helpful.
Were you expecting the position, or were you very surprised?
I was very surprised.
Okay.
When they called me, I basically got a call to say, hey, the board is here and they want to talk to you.
Oh, wow.
And I said, it was like a random Wednesday morning, and I thought, what on earth is going on? So I went in the room. They asked me if I wanted the job. I asked a half dozen questions. I said I wanted to go talk to my wife. It was my 50th birthday.
Oh, wow.
By chance.
Quite a big birthday surprise.
And, you know, most people don't work their birthday, and I usually don't either.
Yeah.
But I had just happened to come in, and I was going to take some time off later in the week. So I went in the bathroom and called my wife and said, you're not going to believe what is happening today.
Yeah.
And I went and accepted the job. So
it
was not expected. And the thing is, if you do a function in a business, you're going to know a lot about that function. And you may think you know a lot about the business. But you know about this much of the other parts of the company, right?
Yeah.
You know this much about health insurance. You know this much about the technical operations of your servers and your data center. And so then you've got to learn all that stuff. And it's like a fire hose in the face.
I'm sure.
And it's hard and it's scary, and you begin to wonder if you're smart enough really to take it all in.
Yeah.
Even though I felt confident about the things I was good at, I had to get up to speed very quickly.
Right. And there's a lot of competition in the dating space. There's Tinder, Bumble, Coffee Meets Bagel, Zoosk, even Facebook. How do you stay ahead of that competition?
Well, for us, the key is always differentiation. It's about who we are. We've spent and most of my time at eHarmony has been spent molding the brand so that we have mind share in the American public, and I guess the Canadian public and the British public and the Australian public. You want them, if they're stopped on the street and asked, have you ever heard of eHarmony, to be able to articulate who we are and why we're different and what unique value we provide.
Right.
And all these years of consistently doing the same thing and speaking the same language, we've seen that we can accomplish that. And that's what we call defensible space. You know, you can't show up. We've certainly had competitors who show up and say, we're going to be the relationship service.
Right.
And I always chuckle a little because it's like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, you're going to have to do something for years and years to prove you can provide better relationships and to convince the public that they can trust you the way that they can trust us. And that's not something you get overnight.
Right.
It's just years and years of work to help everyone see you. So some days you think, well, what about these guys? I don't know. These guys are doing something cool. I have those same fears as anyone would in my job. But again and again, when we talk to the public, we see that we've defined ourselves and that's not going to go away overnight.
Right. And can you speak on the impact of the modern swiping culture and where you think dating is kind of going in the future?
Well, I think a lot of things when they're new are very interesting, and swiping is certainly one of those things.
Right.
It's quick, it's an adrenaline hit. I certainly have friends that use Tinder and they don't ever want to meet anybody. It's just a form of entertainment, right? They get a glass of wine and they sit on the couch and they just do this. So you can't deny that.
Right.
It's a gamification of something that is really important, though. Right? There are things you can gamify and they don't matter to people's lives much anyway, so what's the harm? In this realm, people are looking for love. They're looking for someone to share their life with.
Right.
They're looking for someone sometimes to build a family with. So that's not something to play around with in our view. We think that there's a lot of swipe fatigue. We talk to people who feel that it makes relationships very transactional and shallow.
Right.
And I can tell you that nobody really wants that.
No.
At least not for very long.
Right.
And so what we see is, let's just choose Tinder. Tinder has been a tremendous benefit to online dating because people in their 20s never used online dating.
Right.
They didn't think they needed it. Tinder's brought them into the market, and a lot of them are dissatisfied with what happens there. And so we get the benefit of a lot of those people who say, you know, I think I'm ready for something more substantial or meaningful. It's a help to us. And I think the period of interest in swiping, it's not that it's going away, but I think it's going to decrease some.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, don't go anywhere. We will be right back. This is Business Rockstars. More with my guest, Grant Langston, CEO of eHarmony. This is Business Rockstars. We are back with my guest, Grant Langston, CEO of eHarmony. Grant, thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure.
So you're not the typical CEO. You've recorded half a dozen albums, toured with numerous bands. You're also the father of 2 children.
Right.
That's a lot going on. Do you think work-life balance is achievable, or do you think that's kind of a myth?
Well, I balance a lot of things.
Okay.
So I think it is achievable. I think this idea that you have to work long hours every day, I don't know that I understand that. Most of the people that I've met who work long hours are not very efficient people.
Right.
Just to generalize, you know, I think you can get in and really get to it and work 9 or 10 hours a day and get it all done.
Yeah.
I also think that because of technology, of course, I can go home, I can eat dinner with my family, I can put people to bed, I can work.
Right.
You know,
You can make your own hours.
it's so much more flexible. You know, I think about people that used to have to be in the office to get work done, and that was tough, and now we have a lot more options. So it's really about your willingness to schedule and be in control of that and not let it take advantage of you. So it's very doable in my life. Of course, I have a very helpful wife, and that makes the big difference.
And how do you keep a 20-year-old brand alive and still make sure eHarmony is disruptive and innovative?
Well, the first thing is you never give an inch on the mission. I don't care how much the world changes. I don't care how much people want to swipe or whatever they want to do. The human animal is meant to be in a meaningful relationship, however people define that. That's something that we just believe to our core. People are happier, they're more satisfied when they're building a life with somebody, and we want to remain the best option for that. So that is a non-negotiable. But the rest of it is totally negotiable, right?
Right.
The message, the method, all those things can be constantly reinvented and creative destruction. I mean, you can take parts of the business that were really great 10 years ago and totally throw them in the garbage and just start again. And so we've tried to do that so that the name is the same, the mission is the same, but the experience just gets better and better.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs out there who really want to start a business, but they're scared that they might fail. Have you ever been afraid to fail? And what kind of tips do you have for those entrepreneurs who are like, I really want to start this company, but I'm too afraid to fail?
Well, I have been afraid to fail many times, and I have failed many times, I would say, in my life. And the only thing you can do is be a practical dreamer, right? Mm-hmm. You've got to maintain the part of you that wants to reach for the mountaintop. You can't lose that, but you've got to check that against the realities of the situation.
Right.
And I think if you can balance those two things evenly, you maintain your best shot. I don't believe in suicide runs. I don't believe in, you know what, we're gonna put everything on black and we're gonna just go for it. And if we lose, we're just gonna that never works in my experience. Always be the smartest version of yourself and don't do anything that has a significant chance of failure. You just can't quit. That's really where it's at. It is not a life for everybody. And I think you have to be honest with yourself. Is this really the life for me? If you're looking at an entrepreneurial venture and you're scared, have the conversation with yourself. Is this really the kind of person I am? Maybe you need to mitigate that risk. Maybe you need partners. Maybe you would be happier being a general manager in a business. That's still an entrepreneurial route, but there's less personal risk there. So understand yourself, and if you are that person, you just have to be willing to do the work, not quit, and manage your fear. I suggest meditation.
Oh, that's
right.
Do you meditate often?
I do. This is a job that is a 24/7 job. And people have asked me, do you find that you work way more than you used to? And I say, I don't work more than I used to, but I worry more than I used to.
Sure.
I worry all the time because even if I'm not on the laptop doing work, I'm thinking about this problem and that problem and how do we make this work better.
Right.
And turning your brain off is a skill that if you don't cultivate that, you're going to have a real tough time in this kind of work. So it's been key to me. I had played with it a little bit before I became the CEO, but I understood very quickly that if I didn't get good at turning my brain off and meditating and being in the moment, it was just going to grind me into dust.
Absolutely.
And so it's been a huge tool, and I think it's something that everybody should really think about, but especially if you're going to do this kind of work.
Yeah, that is so interesting. This interview flew by. Grant, thank you so much for joining us.
This was a lot of fun, yeah.
This is Business Rockstars, and that was my guest, Grant Langston, CEO of eHarmony.